and gentlemen, look who is now making his way to the world famous octagon, flanked by UFC CEO Dana White, 45, soon to be 47, President-elect Donald Trump.
I wish the people at home could hear the sound in this room.
It's so loud in here.
It is so loud. It's always loud when he comes here, but now that he's won, now that he's the president again, oh my God.
Every single time I've stepped inside Madison Square Garden, I'm blown.
As just weeks following the so-called Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, now we have Trump, not as a candidate, but as the actual president-elect, pulling up to UFC 309 at MSG with the Avengers, right? The squad pulled up, okay? The goons, everybody pulled up, right? Trump, he was with Elon Musk at his side, Tulsi, RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy. Where's JD Vance? Where my boy JD? Am I missing anybody, guys? Am I missing anybody? Somebody tell me.
Perfect. That's great.
Why don't we do a family shot?
Elon, you have to have a picture with your boy.
Yeah.
We have to get Elon with his boy.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's gorgeous, perfect boy.
Almost enough.
That's a great
Perfect.
picture.
Family?
Family? You got it? Laura?
Mar-a-Lago has basically been brimming for the last 2 days, I'm told, with two kinds of people. Those angling for a job and those who are trying to influence Trump into hiring their picks. But one person has loomed over all of that. His name is Elon Musk.
Oh, my.
Multiple sources tell me tonight that Musk has been seen at Mar-a-Lago nearly every single day since Donald Trump won.
Oh, no.
Dining with him on the patio at times. Today, they were seen on the golf course together. Musk has been in the room when world leaders have called Trump. And tonight we've learned he's also weighing in on staffing decisions, making clear his preference for certain roles even. Publicly tonight, Elon Musk is backing Florida Senator Rick Scott as the next leader of the Republican conference to replace Mitch McConnell.
Which he didn't
While
get.
Musk himself is still not expected to take any kind of formal position inside Trump's administration, given how complicated it would be with his companies, what's becoming clearer tonight is that he doesn't really need to, with one source telling me Elon Musk is having just as much influence from the outside.
The normalization of Trump is going to be studied for decades. Just yesterday, he was at the UFC fight. And John Bones Jones won the belt, and he came off the stage and immediately gave it to him. Now, mind you, this is all for the photo op. But as the media has done, and billionaires who bought social media companies to continue to push out right-wing propaganda has done, this is all about sane-washing Trump and making him look like a normal human being. Because when they start putting immigrants in concentration camps, and mass deportations start creating the separation of families, and millions of you all start losing your health insurance because you're a part of the Affordable Care Act and he wants to repeal it. He closes the Department of Education, leaving teachers without jobs and kids without places to go to school and segregated schools. And when his tariff plan tanks the economy and makes our economy the worst since the Great Depression, even when he promises to militarize the police, reincarcerate thousands, and expand the death penalty. I just want the ammunition to say, nah, he's not that guy. He was at the UFC fight. I mean,
The question is that, if one goes down, it's hard to see more than one going on. If you're a Republican voting to block one of these cabinet nominees because you say you don't like Tulsi Gabbard, how do you expend the political capital and risk the backlash from Trump and take down RFK Jr. or take down Matt Gaetz? It's going to be very difficult for them, and Trump knows that. He knows it's going to be difficult for them to block his.
He's flipped the zone with these picks and forced Republicans to choose. And I think it's interesting to me that he brought Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. to the UFC event last night. He is, frankly, giving, I think, supporter-based permission structure, and he's made these folks stars over the course of this campaign. I mean, in some ways, it's easy to view this, I think, through a different lens. Like, this is also just a person who won following through on campaign promises. He promised retribution, he promised vengeance, and he promised these kind of figures having prominent places in this administration, and he's delivering it. And for a lot of those supporters, that is the point of the Trump vote. And so I don't think that's the fullness of the electorate we saw on Tuesday. I think for a lot of people, they backed Trump probably as a rejection of the administration and weren't thinking of this as an endorsement of every single thing he's talked about. But for the hardcore base, the folks he listens to the most, they voted for Trump for the purposes of RFK Jr. riling the big pharma, right? And so what they're going to force those Republican senators to do is make a choice on those calls, and they will be doing so with the backing of the electorate. I think we could just say that they won't get through. I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
I mean, and it really looks like ancient Rome.
here. This is sort of the conquering Republican Caesar who's going into the Colosseum and everyone's cheering and he's got his political gladiators with him. That appearance isn't just about him enjoying the applause. He's sending a message to the Senate.
For sure.
Like, not only are you entertained, but these are my people and are you willing to fight? Because here's who I have.
If we talk about Elon Musk, yes. I'm so curious, as a business leader yourself and somebody who's been watching all of this, sort of what role you think he's ultimately going to have, what role he's had thus far in terms of maybe even being bigger than we know. There was a line in a story yesterday that said he was almost the quote-unquote co-president. How much influence he's going to be able to have in this sort of blue ribbon committee through either executive orders and the like. But then on the flip side, obviously there's going to be a lot of, I imagine, bigger issues that will have to get dealt with by Congress and the Senate and the like.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I look at it as a champion lion and a champion cheetah coming together, right? Elon Musk is, outside of the political arena, probably the most important innovator, creator, manufacturer, product creator. Think if you take Tesla, batteries, satellites, links in your brain, right? I mean, he single-handedly did more than NASA could do in 20 years. So he's thinking in a generation in a way that has to take us from bricks to bits. That's not the president-elect's main area. So in saying we have to move everybody's cheese, which he's done, right? How do these guys, they build a data center that takes 4 years and 18 days. So I think that focus, and it's not co-presidency. Nobody co-presidents with this president. We've learned that, right? I mean, it's his road, it's his path.
Do you think they will be pals at the end of the 4 years?
Yes, I do. I think they respect each other in their own way.
Okay. What do you want for treasury? What do you want for treasury? Although we got to go.
Whoever the president picks.
Whoever the president picks.
I mean, you have great candidates. You have Howard Lutnick, you have Scott Bessant, you have you have Bill Hagerty that can do it himself.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So welcome back.
A big smile on Joe Biden's face when he welcomed Donald Trump to the White House. What did you make of it, John?
Well, a couple of things, Rowan. Number one, a lot of people think that Joe Biden did vote for Donald Trump. I was very unhappy about being shoved aside in favor of Kamala Harris. And there's a considerable feeling that Biden was glad to see Harris lose and was glad to see Trump win just for personal reasons. But I think there's another point here, too, Rowan, that's worth making. For years, Joe Biden has been denouncing Donald Trump as a Nazi, a fascist, Hitler, a threat to the republic. Well, now Trump wins the election and Joe Biden is all smiles and they have this friendly meeting and he's welcoming Trump to the White House. And I think a lot of liberals, especially younger liberals, are wondering what's going on. I mean, did Biden not really mean it when he talked about Trump as a fascist and a threat to the republic? Well, the answer is no, he didn't mean it. That was ridiculous political invective. And I think some liberals are having their eyes opened here by Joe Biden's change in attitude.
One of my favorite things of this whole election cycle has been yesterday. When Biden and Trump sat down in the White House, Biden voted for Trump. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I never saw that dude so happy in his life. He lost. His party lost. He was happy. When Obama had to shake hands with Trump and do the whole transition thing, Obama looked like, Jesus Christ. Look at Biden. Look at his kid smile, dude.
Trump's like, whatever.
Look at his smile, man. That's like when your kid gets married.
That dude looks like a hairless cat. Look at him.
It's great. First of all, what have they done to him? What have they done to his face?
These are the people who will be advising the president on every crisis that crosses his desk and representing the United States, for some of them, overseas. And they're the people who have an impact also on your daily lives. See, these choices are, on the one hand, cartoonishly outrageous, but when that dust settles, it's not really just about the scandals and the personal lives of these nominees, and there are many. It's about what their positions and their lack of experience could do to our health system, our national security, and the rights we have in this country. So let's start with RFK Jr., shall we? Did RFK Jr. produce some of these strangest headlines in the history of presidential campaigns? He sure did. Does RFK Jr. have a strange, is one way of describing it, penchant for carrying dead animals in his car? He sure does. But RFK Jr. is also one of the most dangerous purveyors of inaccurate information about vaccines that our country has ever seen. The HHS secretary oversees the CDC, the NIH, and the FDA. So basically, in human terms, our vaccines, our medicine, and our food. His nomination and confirmation would mean that the guy who founded one of the nation's most prominent anti-vaccine groups would be in charge of the agency that makes recommendations on vaccines. The guy who said he would stop research into infectious diseases would be in charge of the agency that studies infectious diseases. So That's what's coming on that front.
We have seen nominations before from presidents of both parties where there have been ethical and substantive issues. Let's not forget, we had a nominee for HHS secretary in this administration who had never dealt with health care before being nominated. So I think that the notion that...
I'm not here to defend. He was the attorney general for the state of California. This is a little bit of a different...
He experienced suing healthcare companies, but not anything to do with health care.
Senator, always good to see you. You have said that Democrats shouldn't be, quote, freaking out over every single thing Trump does. Are you freaking out at all about any of these cabinet picks, I wonder?
Well, I mean, there's some that I would absolutely be excited to vote for, like my colleague from Florida or the representative from New York, of course. And then there's others that are just absolute trolls, just like Gates and those things. And that's why, Democrats, like Trump, that gets the kind of thing. I mean, he gets the kind of thing that he wanted, like the freak out and all of those things. And he hasn't even been. It's still not even Thanksgiving yet. And if we're having meltdowns, every tweet or every appointment and all those things, I mean, it's going to be 4 years. And just the last time I was on your network, I was warning about the jackpot. And I use that metaphor of the slot machine, the 777. And if Trump wins, then it's likely that's going to happen. He's going to get the House. We're going to have the Senate and the presidency, and the real jackpot is the Supreme Court. And that's been very clear that that's a strong conservative slant. So they can run the table right now. And at least for the next 2 years, those are the things, if you really want to be concerned about that they have the absolute ability to run the table, at least for the next 2 years. And that's what I think we should all be concerned on, not small tweets or, random kinds of appointments.
Yeah. So I want you guys to understand, the same people that are currently hyperventilating over, for example, RFK being unqualified, had nothing to say at all about Xavier Becerra, who is the current secretary for the Department of Health and Human Services for the Biden administration, which, again, by the way, is the worst administration of the 21st century. I want to remind people, all the people who are boohoo, whining, crying about Trump and who he's picking in his cabinet. And again, Trump in his first administration had the most successful administration of the 21st century, probably the last 50, 60, 70 years, to be quite honest with you. These people were silent on this guy.
The reason that Matt Gaetz is such an exciting pick to so many people is because he will go in and reform the Department of Justice. It desperately needs it. Look, he and I sat on the Judiciary Committee together for almost 7 years before I became Speaker of the House. And we heard the evidence. We saw the evidence of lawfare. We saw how the Department of Justice had been used for political purposes, how they targeted Catholics in some examples and parents at school boards and pro-life Americans. This is not what our system of justice was built to do. And Matt Gaetz will go in there and shake it up. And I think most of the American people understand that's an important function.
Would you take steps to put things into recess so those appointments could happen?
Listen, I believe in the principle of a new president being able to choose his team, and that used to not be a controversial notion. We're in a time of very divided government and a very partisan atmosphere in Washington. I wish it were not. I wish the Senate would simply do its job of advice and consent and allow the president to put the persons in his cabinet of his choosing. But if this thing bogs down, it would be a great detriment to the country, to the American people. Remember, they just delivered a mandate to the president, an overwhelming popular vote victory and of course, electoral college victory. And they have sent the message that America First policies should be the rule of the day. So the persons that the president is choosing will help with that agenda. They will take their leadership in these agencies and they will reform them as the people expect and demand. So we'll evaluate all that at the appropriate time and we'll make the appropriate decision. There may be a function for that and we'll have to see how it plays out.
Congressman Gaetz offered to take us on a tour.
So one of the committees where people have a lot of information is the Appropriations Committee, because they can view almost any vector of government funding. And so, this is Mr. Rutherford's office. He's on the Ethics Committee and the Appropriations Committee. 152 stock trades. Stocks go through the roof. And, actually bought Raytheon stock the day that Russia invaded Ukraine. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, imagine if every American could make money off of war. Yeah, setting aside the whole shame and ethics questions. How many more on our hit list here? There are a few more. I wish there were fewer on the hit list. I wish we could only stop at 1 or 2 offices, but as it turns out, energy is a sector that sees a lot of congressional stock trading. Sure. And we have members who are on the Energy Subcommittee of Appropriations, like Michael Guest, chairman of the Ethics Committee, and he's traded somewhere between tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in energy stocks. He's been buying online gaming stocks and just making a killing on them. So you would think that the people that were on the Ethics Committee would be your best allies in this fight, but indeed they're some of the most prolific traders leaders, and not only trading, but in the case of Mr. Guest, trading in an area where he has access to energy information more so than almost any other American.
And no indication that he wants to maybe slow down, pump the brakes, recognize that there might be some appearance of impropriety here?
It seems as though the pace is only accelerating.
Bringing the latest pictures we have received of President Biden meeting President Xi of China. Now, the two leaders are meeting in Peru for the talks of the annual Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit that's taking place there. The last scheduled meeting between the two leaders, lots of topics to talk about.
And look at this picture right here, right? These are world leaders. You have Xi Jinping out front, and look at what Biden's at. He's off to the back, off to the side, right? Out of the spotlight, right? He doesn't look like a leader. He looks like one of these guys that's leading one of these smaller countries that nobody really gives a damn about. He doesn't look like the president of the United States, okay? He doesn't look like the leader of the strongest country in that meeting. That's not what he looks like right now. He's taking a back seat. That is what America has done. We've taken a back seat under the Biden administration and the leadership of the Democrats, right? I guarantee you, if Trump was at this meeting, there's no way Trump would allow himself to take a picture all the way back here. He would be up here, right? Up in front, right? For everybody to see. But Biden's all the way back here. Yeah, this is bad. This is embarrassing.